attendance, and we are ecstatic as members of the Wake Forest community and certainly as part of the admissions committee to offer you the opportunity to join us. And no matter where you are in that process, whether you've already made your decision to join us or maybe whether you're still trying to decide, we feel it's really appropriate just to share again how excited we are for you, how excited we are about you, and how much we look forward to having you join us on our campus. But that's enough for me. I know that you're excited to hear from our experts, our students who know quite a bit about Wake Forest. I am a Wake Forest graduate myself, and so I am really excited and always looking forward to talk about this institution that I've called home for 10 years now at this point. But we've got some folks whose experiences are maybe a little bit more relevant and at least can speak to some of the things happening on campus right now. And so I'm actually going to ask our panelists if they would introduce themselves. Katherine, would you mind getting us started?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Katherine Laws. I am a senior at Wake, and I'm from Concord, North Carolina, which is just about an hour away from Wake. And I am graduating with a degree in English and a minor in journalism this May.
All right, please, after you.
So hi everyone, my name is Mara Boston. I'm a senior here at Wake Forest. I'm going to be graduating with degrees in chemistry and Spanish, a minor in biology, and I'm from outside of Philadelphia.
Last but not least.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Doug. I am a junior from outside of Denver, Colorado, and I am a double finance and philosophy major.
Thank you guys again for being with us here this afternoon as our panelists. You know, when we all think about college, we've seen movies, we've seen TV shows, we've got an idea of what college might actually be like. But again, you guys have walked across the quad, you've spent time inside of our classrooms, you know Wake Forest. And Doug, I actually want to start with you. I mean, for our students that are thinking about the transition from high school to college, where classes are different, there are so many student organizations, there's independence and freedom. What kind of support can they expect to have in adjusting and transitioning from high school to Wake Forest?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Thomas. I think that the first thing that I would say is that your number one support system is all your peers around you who are in the same exact situation that you are. And people come from all over the world to come to Wake, from all different corners, from different backgrounds. They bring different experiences with them. And you're going to share your story with them, and they're going to share their story with you. But that's going to happen inside of your dorm rooms, on the quad, and other activities around campus. But Wake offers so many other support systems, such as, I'll name a couple that I found personally helpful. Number one being the OPCD, which is the Office of Personal and Career Development. And they really help you when you come to school. And you'll notice when you come to Wake, or any college, you're going to come to Wake, so we're going to worry about that. But your resume gets wiped clean. You now have a blank piece of paper, and you now have to, for instance, fill it up, and make Wake Forest your Wake Forest experience. So go to that, go to the career fair at Wake. We have somewhere around 260 student groups on campus, and I guarantee you, if you don't find one that you like yourself, you can make your own. And we have a career fair twice a semester on the lower quad, and I highly recommend you go there. And I tell everybody on all my tours to go to the career fair to really meet people who are interested in things just like you are, or meet people who you get along with but may have different interests, and that's totally okay too. And so I definitely encourage you to explore there, but also we have awesome resources in the Benton Centers, such as the Intercultural Center or the LGBTQ Center, Women's Center, things like that. The counseling office is in Ronaldo Hall. All these places are here on campus to support you. And then that also extends into the academic classroom, both inside and outside the classroom. We have a great student tutoring program. So all of the main cores have their own student program, essentially. The business school has their own for accounting. For instance, I'm a accounting tutor. And then the number one student program that is peer taught on campus, I think, is the Writing Center in VSR Library. And so one cool thing about Wake is that you can take all of your papers to the Writing Center, and they will review them with you one-on-one with a graduate level student or a senior who's a English or some other type of major. I think Katherine Laws might be doing some of this sometimes, or a faculty member. And so they sit down and read through your papers with you. And that is really such a great experience, because at a liberal arts institution, you're going to be writing papers in every single class. I know I didn't expect to write papers in a finance course, but right now I'm writing a paper on derivative contracts in the oil market. And so I'm submitting that to the writing center to help them read over my drafts with me, because my writing skills can always get better, but I definitely recommend you use all those resources.
Fantastic. So Doug, there is really a lot to unpack there, right? You have some really great support in terms of just your long-term professional and career development. You know, I know a lot of folks tend to think about career services being one of those things that you wait and do as a senior, but really you've got opportunities to pursue as early as your freshman year. Also heard from Doug just the support from these different spaces as you think about identity, as you think about the social transition to campus. But I want to focus just for a second on some of the things that he mentioned about the academic piece, right? By now, I'm sure that you all have heard of this idea of Wake Forest, right? This idea that Wake Forest is a place of great academic, the kind of environment that pushes you and that challenges you, and sure it does. And having accessible faculty is really important. And so, Mara, I want to ask, I mean, when you think about faculty at Wake Forest, would you describe them as accessible, or are they too great layers or coaches and cheerleaders and places of support as well?
So the student-faculty relationship at Wake Forest is one of my absolute favorite things about Wake. All of our faculty members are extremely approachable. I always remember my freshman year, I was in a Chemistry 111 course that had about 48 students in it, and I was terrified to go to my professor's office hours because I thought there's no way this man is going to know my name. And I walked into his office hours and he's like, "Oh, hi Mara, how you doing? How was your weekend?" And that just made me feel so special, and it reminded me of just how much your professors care about you. And I always tell students the best advice I can give to you in forming those bonds with faculty members is just to go to their office hours a couple times the first few weeks of class, let them know who you are, what you're interested in, because you never know which faculty member might end up becoming your mentor, your advisor. And when it comes time in your junior and senior, like me, Doug, and Catherine, you're definitely going to want to have some faculty members that you can go to for letters of recommendation and career advice as well.
Definitely. So that feeds quite nicely back into that Office of Personal Career Development and the support that you have there as well. You will find a lot of interdisciplinary relationships on our campus, where although you may go to a faculty member for academic support, they very well may make some recommendations for you on the professional, the career side as well. So just really a support-driven, mentorship-driven kind of academic environment, just environment in general, that you'll find on our campus. I'm curious, and I'll pose this actually to all of you. Thinking about the classes that are offered at Wake Forest, there are over 40 majors, 60 minors. How do you know what classes to actually take? Or when you think about advising, what does that look like, or what does that feel like on our campus?
I'm happy to take this. I definitely think that if I could have gone back to my freshman year, I wish that I would have sought even more help just with registering for classes, because it definitely is there. Wake has a great system of advising, and that's just one of the best parts about going to a school that's the size of Wake, is that you are able to get help to schedule your classes and to register for them. You'll have a faculty advisor whenever you come into Wake. And that's going to be a person that will meet with you before classes and after classes. They're available for any kind of calls and emails over the summer before you come into the semester. And that's just a great resource that's going to help you create a schedule that isn't going to be too challenging, but isn't going to be too easy either. And I think that's a really helpful resource. And then the other thing I would suggest is just to reach out to upperclassmen students. I, for one, and I know that so many people would say the same, I love giving recommendations for classes and professors, and helping underclassmen figure out which classes would be a great fit for them. And so I would say reach out to any upperclassmen that you meet when you're on campus, or even your student advisor. And every student will get a student advisor at the beginning of orientation week that will be with you throughout that whole semester. And they're a great resource for you if you have any questions about the specifics of classes or need help registering. So definitely use those resources as you're registering.
As you register for classes, you will probably find that there are some courses that you grow really attached to, courses that maybe you didn't expect to major in or to pursue as a minor. And so, Mara, I'm going to actually ask you this question. How easy is it to double major or to double minor or to pursue completely different academic areas on our campus?
So that's something that's so special about Wake. It's actually really easy to do that. I've switched my major around a couple of different times. That's how I've ended up with a double major and a minor. I remember freshman year walking into my first Spanish class on campus, and I'd taken Spanish all throughout grade school and all throughout high school, and I was not super excited to be taking Spanish again. But I absolutely fell in love with the Spanish department at Wake, and my second week of college, I'd actually texted my Spanish teacher from high school, and I was like, "Hey, senora, I think I'm actually going to do a Spanish major." And I definitely stuck with that all throughout my 4 years here at Wake. And then I also realized that I really enjoyed the sciences at one point during my Wake career. I was pre-med. I've gone through a lot of different changes since then. So I started taking biology classes, and I found those to be really interesting. So I was a biology major for a little bit, and then I ended up switching my major because I realized I really loved chemistry. And so now I'm a chemistry major. And it seems at some point that it's so bizarre to have a chemistry major and a Spanish major, but there's actually a surprising number of students who have very diverse majors and minors. And that's definitely part of the liberal arts curriculum. You get that opportunity to really expand your interests and explore different areas of study.
Just curious, Doug or Catherine, did either of you change majors or kind of adjust your paths as student at Wake, as students at Wake Forest?
I never changed my major necessarily, but my journalism minor, I had no journalism experience in high school. We never had a school paper or a school magazine or anything that I worked with. And so coming to Wake, and I just kind of took a journalism class because it seemed fun, and I had other upperclassmen who had recommended it to me, and ended up just loving the class and really loving my professor. And so that was kind of an unexpected minor for me, but something I've really loved.
I didn't come into Wake knowing what I was going to major in or what I was going to minor in. I knew I wanted to do something new in business for my major potentially, but for my minor, I had no clue. And so I was originally just going to do a Spanish minor because I speak Spanish at home, but one of my classics professors, Michael Sloan, he's one of the best professors on campus. If you can get into his class, you have to take it. I mean, it is amazing. But he convinced me to do a philosophy major originally, and then I was like, what? I've never even taken a philosophy class before in my life, hadn't taken one in high school before. And so I took one first time. It was philosophy of Christianity with Dr. Christian Miller. He's also an amazing professor, and it blew my mind away. Literally just opened your mind to so many new things. And so I pursued the major, and then my plans changed again further down the road, and I decided I'm potentially going to graduate a semester early and do a trip around the world as an independent study. So I might be doing that. So then I would just be a philosophy minor now. So your plans are consistently changing, and adaptability is really important wherever you are. But at Wake, all the faculty and professors are really encouraging you to step outside your comfort zone and really try to be adaptable in your majors and minors and think outside the box. So that's what I would say.
So Doug, you bring up a really great point there in talking about your plans to travel around the world. You know, Wake Forest study abroad is a pretty big part of our experiences as students. And so, Mara, I want to go to you with this question. I mean, what is study abroad like, or what kind of options will you have as a student to study abroad?
So I remember when I think it was my sophomore year, I went to the study abroad office for the first time. We call it the Global Program Studies Officer, the GPS office for short. And I was actually very shocked by the countless numbers of programs that you can do. At one point, I thought I wanted to study physics in England over the summer, and the study abroad office was able to find a program where I could do that. What I actually ended up doing was I went abroad with the Wake Forest Spanish department to Salamanca, Spain. It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I lived with a host family there, and it was a full immersion program, so I was really able to improve my Spanish skills. And it was so cool being there because University of Salamanca is actually one of the oldest universities in the world. It turned 800 when I was there, and I thought that was super cool. So we were there for all the celebrations for that. And like, study abroad is just an absolutely incredible experience you could have. Believe me, there's so many different ways you can study abroad. You can study abroad in the fall, the spring. You can go in the summer. Say you just really can't miss football season or basketball season. I was really worried about missing football season on campus. But there are a bunch of different ways there you can study abroad.
Cool. Mara, thank you so much for sharing that. And, you know, kind of thinking too, just about opportunities that grow out of the academic side of Wake Forest. Study abroad is one, but research is the other. And Katherine, I mean, when you think about research, can you start your own research? Like, how does research work on campus, or how can you pursue it if that's something that you're interested in?
Yeah, that's a great question, and sort of tough to answer because there's so many different ways to get involved with research. But if I had to give anyone advice who would be interested in doing research, I would just say to ask a professor, any faculty member who you really trust and have a lot of similar interests to, and start with that resource. And there are several research grants that you can do that are, you know, some are over the summer, some are for half of the summer, some are for a semester. Some are abroad a semester. There's a lot of different options, but a professor can help guide you to the path that is going to be the best for you, figure out which kind of grant would be the best for you. There also, you know, sometimes you start your own research project if you have an idea, depending on the grant. Sometimes a professor already is researching something and they might ask you to come alongside them and help them with that current research project. So that's why I think starting with that professor is really just the best option, because they'll help advise you either way or share projects that either they or their colleagues are working on that you might be able to get plugged into. And I got to research my sophomore summer. Actually, so I used a research grant, but I was actually compiling a journal of student essays from Wake to be published. So I got to be on campus working with a faculty mentor, just like any other person doing research would be, funded through the university, got to live on campus for free that summer. And that was a really great experience that I got to do research even as an English and journalism major and minor. So that just goes to show there's a lot of different options in terms of research. I've had friends that have done philosophy research and politics research. It's not just limited to the sciences, though that is a wonderful experience too.
So Mara, you have the science background here. Is there anything you'd like to add about research?
So I never had the opportunity to do research on campus with a professor. I actually did research off campus and internship the summer after my sophomore year. But in the science departments, what they'll do is in the fall, typically, they'll have a big research fair in which different professors and grad students will actually come together and showcase their different research projects. And from there, you can arrange to meet with these professors if you're interested in anything that they're working on. And that's how you would go about in the science departments getting involved in a research project.
You have plenty of opportunities, no matter what you might be studying or what you're thinking about studying. Even pursuing research outside of your intended major or minor is an option as well. Just know that you have plenty of options to pursue your passions and interests, whatever they might be. You know, we've talked about the academic side of things a little bit, and so I want to shift gears to kind of talk about student life, right? Going off to college, the academic piece takes up a lot of your time, but certainly doesn't take up all of your time. And so when we talk about traditions on campus, I want to start first, just really simply, to each of you, what is your favorite campus tradition?
I can go first. So my favorite campus tradition is Love Feast, which is something we do every winter around finals time, and it's a traditional Moravian Christmas celebration. We actually have the largest Love Feast celebration in the Western Hemisphere, which is super cool, and it's just this absolutely beautiful celebration. And because of the time of year, a lot of students are really stressed out. At least for me, it's the time to sort of take a break from finals and sort of like get back into the spirit of the holidays.
It's yours. Catherine, how about you?
One of my, I consider it a tradition. Every day at around 5 o'clock, the bells of Wake Chapel are played on campus. I don't know if y'all have gotten a chance to be on campus while the bells are ringing, but you can just hear it from clear across campus, and there's student bell players, and so sometimes they play really traditional songs that you might normally hear on bells, and a lot of times they play fun songs that have just recently come out that you might recognize. They love to play the Harry Potter theme song. They love to play fun songs like that. And I always love that tradition because it just makes me think of Wake Forest. It makes me think of being on the quad. And very briefly, it just kind of represents, I feel like one of the things I really love about Wake is the way that they really do balance working and playing. I mean, you really do, all these student life activities that we'll be talking about right now are a huge part of your college experience. They're some of the ways that you'll grow the most. And then obviously the classroom is so important and something that we love. So the bells just are kind of a reminder at 5 o'clock, like take a break and just take a breath. And, you might have some homework to do after 5 o'clock, but they still kind of represent the idea that your workday can end at some point.
The bells. Who doesn't love the bells? And Doug, how about you? Your favorite tradition?
I would say I think there's a couple of them. Last year, one thing that hopefully we'll all get to experience soon, especially for the graduating seniors this year, is graduation and convocation. And so those two events kind of go hand in hand for me. And I think that the convocation ceremony, where you're all in the chapel for the first time with your entire incoming new cohort, new class, new peers, and then you get to graduate, and the quad is then lined with professors. And as you process out of the chapel at graduation, you get to say goodbye or just say, I'll see you later, to all of the relationships that your professors built with you and you built with your professors throughout your years at Wake. And that is something really special and really epitomizes the Wake Forest student to faculty connections. That is one of the main reasons why I would say I am so happy to be at Wake, and it's really an unmatched experience in that regard.
So a tradition-rich campus, it seems to be, although you three have pulled out three very different traditions on campus. Of course, there's Wake and Shake, and there's Project Pumpkin, Project Desk. I mean, there are certainly so many things for folks to get involved in. And so just know that as a student and as a member of our community, because staff are involved, faculty involved in these things too. When we talk about community on our campus, it's not just the students. Certainly all members of our community, even folks that live in Winston-Salem, so beyond the confines of campus itself, they too are involved and invested in campus. And that kind of brings up a good idea. So Katherine, thinking about the city of Winston-Salem, completely separate from Wake Forest, of course, but what students typically do in the city, or are they likely to spend time off campus in the weekends?
Yeah, that's a great question. I knew, I think when I was coming into college, how much I would love Wake. I don't think I knew how much I would end up falling in love with Winston-Salem. It just is a really amazing city and has grown a lot, even in the past 4 years. It'll be exciting to see the way it grows in the next 4 years. There have been new restaurants and coffee shops and a ton of different places popping up over the past 4 years. But I certainly think students love to get off campus. That's a very accessible thing to do. A lot of students do have cars on campus, and we have a great shuttle system that can take you anywhere you need to go. There's Uber in Winston-Salem, so just so you know, transportation is taken care of. And I kind of like to think about it visually when I'm thinking about all the different ways that students get off campus. Because so you have campus, and right around campus, there's something called Ronaldo Village, which is just a village of little shops and restaurants that are actually walkable. So students love to go on walks to Ronaldo Village and take advantage of those fun places. There's some other places around campus. And then downtown Winston-Salem is actually only 10 minutes away from campus. Very accessible. And there's just some really great restaurants downtown. There's a cool movie theater. We share Winston-Salem with 3 other colleges, Winston-Salem State, Salem College, and UNC School of the Arts. So the School of the Arts has arts performances downtown, and there's a park downtown called Bailey Park, and just a lot of cool places like that. And then if you actually head north, like 30 minutes, there's a state park called Pilot Mountain State Park. About 40 minutes away is Hanging Rock State Park. So if you love to hike or camp or bike or climb or anything like that, that's another thing that students love to do. Even I've been on a school day after classes are finished at 2 or 3 or something, you can make a trip up there really quickly and do something outside. So I've loved Winston-Salem that there's a lot of different options for the different kind of things that you can do.
I forget, Katherine, that you're the expert when it comes to North Carolina. You certainly know about all these great places beyond Winston-Salem, and our students do too. They take advantage of Pilot Mountain, as you had mentioned. They take advantage of Asheville, another pretty major city. Take advantage of Charlotte as well, which is about an hour from campus, the beach. A nice road trip on a Saturday. So really, you can take advantage of as much as you want beyond the Wake Forest community and the confines of campus itself. If we come back to campus, though, there are a number of student organizations to be involved in, over 250 to choose. And I'm sometimes asked about Greek life on campus in particular. So Maier, I want to go to you with this question. What is Greek life like on the Wake Forest campus?
So Greek life, I can only really speak from the female perspective at Wake. But so Greek life, definitely, there are a lot of people who are involved at Greek life at Wake, but it doesn't have to be the end all be all of your social life by any means. At Wake, we don't go through recruitment until the second semester of your freshman year. So you have plenty of time to make friends, but on your way at Wake before you even decide that you're going to make such a big commitment. And I honestly really love that we do the second semester recruitment, because it gave me the opportunity to actually say I have friends in every single sorority, and I have friends outside of sororities as well too. And I always look at my Greek experience as a way of enhancing my Wake experience. It's not the definition of my Wake Forest experience.
That's a great way to put it. And I guess, too, to ask the inverse of that question, Katherine, for you, what if you don't want to do Greek life on campus?
Yeah, well, I think it kind of says enough, honestly, that I would share the exact same thoughts as Mara when it comes to Greek life, and I'm not in a sorority. And so it definitely is true that you get that whole first semester to make friends. So I have friends in every single sorority, and that is just a really great thing. I think we also don't have a traditional Greek row. So you aren't gonna live necessarily with people in your sorority. There's a hall system where some members of that sorority or fraternity may live. But you are going to be living in and around people who are of all different Greek affiliations. And so for me, not joining a sorority, I have just decided to find other ways to plug into different sorts of communities that are doing that same thing that Mara was saying, enhancing your experience. And so that's been a great experience for me, but it's such a blessing that I can walk right alongside someone who is in a sorority and share a lot of the same spaces on campus and share a lot of the same passions and interests. So it's been a great experience for me.
Right. So Doug, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation. Thinking about student organizations for you, I mean, are there particular things that you want to give a plug for in this moment, or just you want to talk about how students are involved on campus? Maybe that's a question to ask. How are they involved, or how often? What kinds of things do students do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it looks different for everybody, which is the most important thing to notice. One of the most important things when you come to campus is just go get involved. Earlier, I mentioned the not the career fair, the new student fair. Sorry, I had a brain blank there for a second, but just go get involved in many different things. And I would say that it's really important to dip your toe in 2 or 3 things early when you're, a first-year student, so you can, in the future, have a leadership position in those activities. And then you can have auxiliary activities that you build off of. I would say that most of your involvement at Wake and most of your life at Wake will actually happen outside of the classroom. And most of your growth will happen there as well. And so for me, a couple of things that I'm involved in. So I'm a manager for the women's basketball team, which takes up about 20 hours of my time every week because in season, because we travel. So that's just a traveling circus, but it's a great experience. And I'm also a president's aide, which you'll learn what that is when you get to campus. Essentially, it's a great opportunity to meet and interact with admin and have high-level conversations about what's going on campus. I also deal with the Verger Fund, which is essentially our endowment. And then I do a couple things with the business school. So I'm on the business school undergraduate council, things like that. And then I also do a lot with tour guides. And so you kind of dip your toe in the water everywhere, and you really can meet many different types of people. And I think that one of the best things about college when you come to Wake is that there's so many different diverse opportunities to engage with people who are unlike yourself to be able to grow yourself. And I never really knew what that meant until I came to Wake and have lived through it now. But I can say it's been a really enlightening experience, and I'm very lucky to have said that I've been able to do that.
Doug, I think it would be appropriate for me to describe you and to call you busy. I think I want to ask to each of you, I mean, how might you describe a Wake Forest student? So Doug, I'm going to start with you first. I mean, I don't know if this is a such thing as one word or two words, but how would you describe a Wake Forest student?
I think that's a really good question. And I think it's a hard question as well, because I think it really looks different for every single individual on our campus. I've kind of been emphasizing the same of you can make your Wake Forest experience whatever you want it to be, because we offer so many, just an abundance of things you can do while on campus, whether it's research or excelling, in the classroom in various ways, or getting internships, or getting involved in certain ways, or interacting with admin in certain ways. And whatever you make your Wake Forest experience, that's what it is. And a lot of people would say, it's unique, or they use all these coin words, which I think is great. But I just think the Wake Forest experience for every single individual is something that's nothing short of life-changing. And that's one thing that why I would say you have to come to Wake. So, yeah.
Thank you, Doug. Samara, I'm going to go to you. How would you describe a typical Wake Forest student, if there is such a thing?
So I couldn't agree more with everything Doug said. Wake is just such an incredible place to begin with. And I don't believe that there is a true typical Wake Forest student. But what I do know is that every single Wake Forest student is passionate, driven, and hardworking. And that comes across in all the different activities that students are involved in. And when you meet people, like you might think, they're in Greek life, so they're focused on this, they're in athletes, they're focused on this. But then when you really get to know and when you peel back the other layers, you might find out that they're involved in so many different things on campus as well, and they have a wide variety of interests. And so that's something that's so special about Wake. And no matter what your interests are or what you're involved in, everyone seems to be so passionate about them and involved in them. Like Doug had mentioned before, most students they seek to receive some sort of leadership position in the different activities that they're involved in. And I think the fact that you'll meet students involved in 10 different activities and they might hold 3 different leadership positions across them, that just goes to show you how hardworking Wake Forest students are.
Right, and Katherine, how about you?
Yeah, I was going to say something really similar to Mara, actually, and just the only thing I would add to that is just to emphasize that, I think if you got into Wake Forest, chances are you also had a lot of leadership positions in high school. You also were really passionate about something and really interested in something. But I definitely remember in high school there being a lot of pressure to just become involved in something or just become a leader in something, or kind of fake this passion just to build up your resume. It was something that I experienced in my high school, at least. And so I would just add to what Mara said, it's exactly that, and it's genuine. Like, the passion that people have for things is not because it's them wanting to build up their resume. It's not because they're doing these things because they want to get a job someday. It's because they truly, truly love the things that they're getting involved in. And I'm a graduating senior. I have a job for next year, and I've built a great resume at Wake Forest, and I haven't done a single thing for the reason of I need to build my resume up. The single thing I've done has just been something I wanted to get involved in because it looked fun and really interesting to me. And I think that that's been true, at least the way that I've seen other Wake Forest students share that experience too. They only get involved in things that they really love, and they love things well, and there's enough things to love that you're going to build a great resume out of that.
also hear you say, Catherine, too, that folks are really intentional on our campus. They're purpose driven. And by now, I'm sure many of you listeners have come across this idea of pro humanitate, the motto of Wake Forest. And Doug, I'm going to ask you this question very simply. I mean, what's the deal with pro humanitate on the Wake Forest campus?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that all of you, when you come to campus, you're going to come across probably the first day and maybe even within the first couple hours of moving into your dorm or whatever may have you. But what does pro humanitate mean? That is the question. And commonly on campus, it's referred to as for humanity, but there's actually a different translation that I would like to believe that is for human improvement. If you take the Latin and the Greek and you translate it with the correct grammar, essentially it means for human improvement and what your individual improvement can do to help humanness. How can you help deliver humanness on this earth and in the community around you? And so how you look to deliver that at Wake and how you look to build and contribute to humanity in whatever way you see fit. And the good news is about this is it's so wide reaching. It is so wide reaching, so vast, that there's so many different ways you can add to what your pro humanitate means and how you can contribute to humanity, both on a global scale, but also on a macro and micro scale in the Wake Forest community and even your close friend group or whatever it is, and into the future. And so at Wake, we really look to build people in whatever capacity they desire to not only take that mindset from Wake Forest and deliver it into their life, into the future, and share it with the people around them. So that's kind of what I've picked up on what pro humanitate means.
Thank you so much, Doug. I just want to offer just one little quick heads up to our viewers. I've got just a couple questions left, and then we're going to transition to those questions coming from you. And so if you have been thinking about your questions or if you'd like to pose any, please be sure to put those in the chat box. But before we transition there, I want to kind of zoom out a little bit. You know, we've talked about Wake Forest really specifically, the academic piece, the student life piece. But if we were to turn back the clock, right, and you had the opportunity to talk to yourself, to give yourself advice as a high school senior preparing to go off to college, what kind of advice would you give yourself? Or what would you, how would you encourage or how would you tell yourself to go about your college experience? Mara, I'm going to start with you first.
So I would have definitely told myself to take a deep breath and just relax. I remember I was so nervous the day before I had moved into Wake Forest. I didn't sleep all night. And I was so worried I wouldn't make friends, and my classes would be hard, or I wouldn't develop the bonds with professors. And what I really wish I did know is that everyone on campus is so approachable. It's not just the professors, it's the students, it's your RAs, all of the faculty and staff members. And just don't be afraid to reach out and say hi to someone. If you there's no shame in walking down your hall freshman year, just knocking on someone's door and introducing yourself to them. Trust me, everyone is just as nervous as you are, and you shouldn't be embarrassed to admit that you're nervous or to reach out to new people.
So Catherine, same question to you. What advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mara. Just to pursue people, I think is truly one of the best decisions that you can make at Wake. That is going to transform your personal experience. That's going to transform your academic experience. So if you can come into college and not only find people that seem really interesting to you and people that you connect with, but also definitely take the time and be really thoughtful about the way that you're approaching those friendships and pursuing those friendships. Yeah, I would just encourage you all to do that and to not worry. So this is such a cliche thing to say, but to truly to not worry so much about the way that you're being perceived. I think one of the best things that we can do is to not to talk ourselves down and lower our self-esteem, but just to think about ourselves less. And just think about other people more. And I wish that going into freshman year, that's such a common thing for you to be really worried about the way you're being perceived and really kind of thinking a lot about the actions that you are doing, every single thing that you're doing. But if you'll actually just take time to look outside of yourself and think about others, I think that leads to a freshman year that is just honestly a lot more restful and a lot more fruitful in the way that you're putting all that energy that you would be putting into yourself into other people. Hopefully that made sense.
All right, Doug, it's your turn.
I think that both Mara and Katherine have really hit every nail on the head. The only thing I would add is throughout my Wake Forest experience, I've really learned the value of listening to people. And so often we're focused on what we're saying and, you know, how we look, just like, you know, what other people are perceiving us as. And we're so concerned about that. But when you step into a new environment, we're nervous. Sometimes we're afraid to approach people, whether that be our classmates or our professors. But realize that nobody is in a different situation than you are. You're all in the same situation. And you can learn so much about the people around you by just listening to them. And so if you just listen to people, understand their story, their background, and focus on learning about people and learning about where they come from, you're going to develop lifelong relationships so much quicker than if you're self-concerned about what's going on with yourself. And I know it's hard to take the spotlight off yourself because there's a lot of stuff going on. In the first year of college, there's so much change that occurs. It happened for me. My sister just finished, or she's in her second to last week of finishing her first year at Wake Forest. And we both were talking about it the other day, and there's just so much change that occurs in that first year, so many realizations that come to fruition. And I think that looking back, if I could have changed something, I would have tried to listen more to people around me, because it's really, really important to just learn about those people around you, because college, what you learn is all about the people. It's all about the people and the place you're put in to learn and grow both your intellectual knowledge and curiosity, but just where you see yourself developing in the future and things like that. So just listen.
Thank you all so much for your advice and your insight, your expertise. I hope that something that was mentioned today or something that was discussed, at least up to this point, has maybe answered a question or two. I'm actually going to turn our conversation over to my colleague, Senior Associate Dean Calhoun, for those questions that have come from our audience.
Thank you, Thomas. It's been really exciting to listen to our students here. I'm going to echo your congratulations that you gave to our admitted students in the beginning. We're so excited. We look forward to welcoming you to campus. We look forward to answering questions as we move into summer and into the fall. But we look forward to welcoming our newest demon deacons. And I echo you, Thomas, and our students here are so excited for you to learn about Wake Forest and be a Wake Forest student. I have been collecting questions. I've been sitting here looking at chat, and we've had a number of questions come through. Now, I know, Thomas, you just asked our students to give advice to or think back to what advice they would give themselves. I also wonder, so Thomas and I read applications, we get to know students through those short answer questions, that interview. We really get to know students because we ask so many questions. We have that curiosity. So my question, we have to let our students here kind of think back to their high school experience and think back to looking at colleges and thinking about why Wake Forest. So I'm going to pose this to each one of them, and we'll start with Doug. Why Wake Forest? How did you choose Wake Forest? How did you decide this was the place for you?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep this as short as possible. So my college search, I probably looked at 16-ish schools, looked at some schools in the Northeast, some Ivies, and some schools around us. So, you know, like UVA, Vandy, Duke, those type of places. And I was sold on UVA, like absolutely sold on UVA. I was going to UVA, and then I came down to Wake, and I saw the campus, and I met some of the professors, one-on-one meetings, and I just had this like epiphany, and I just said, this is it, like this is where I'm going to school. And so I filled out the entire application that night, literally the entire app. I know it is a extremely long application, and I turned it in the next morning, and like that was it. That was all the thinking that went into it. And so I just had this like, oh my goodness, this is it moment. And that's why I chose Wake in the short run, but it's worked out extremely well. And honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. And I'm so thankful for the experiences I've had.
So you fell in love, and you fell pretty hard, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Answering all
Yeah,
those
for
questions
sure.
in one evening. Yeah. Way to go. That was an onerous task that you made it through in one evening to fill out the whole application. So, well, Catherine, so thinking about that senior year of high school, and even before, you were probably looking at schools and thinking about what sort of experience that you were looking for. So why Wake Forest?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that I want to say to you all is just, I was a mess the spring of my senior year of high school. I did not know what I wanted, and I was all over the place. And so, if that sounds like you right now, it is okay. You will make a decision, and it will be great. But I was going back and forth on some schools that were really similar to Wake, some schools that were really different from Wake. But truly, the thing that really sold me on Wake was interacting with the people. And I had a great interview with Dawn Calhoun, and I got to spend the night at Wake as I was interviewing for a scholarship, and we were hosted by a current scholarship student. And so there was a girl that was a freshman at the time, and she just kind of taught me all about campus, and we started a really great friendship. And when I went to campus for campus days, which obviously we're so sad that you all can't do this year, that's always one of my favorite days. But the admissions office is offering a lot of resources to get in touch with students, things like this. They're posting these videos on Instagram where students are talking about their experience, and students will have emails available, things like that, where you can really get in touch with students. If you're able to do anything like that, I would just recommend it, because truly that's what kind of sold me on Wake, was the people. And I got to meet some professors and just had awesome experiences. And I don't say that to say that you need to be meeting all these Wake Forest people in order to know that you want to go to Wake Forest, but truly just from the people that you hear from, the students that you may already know at Wake Forest, or the personalities that you might be able to see on social media over the course of this spring with everything going on. I just found really warm, welcoming people who, like Doug was saying earlier, just really listened to me and really wanted to know what I had to say and were interested in who I was as a person. And that's what sold me on Wake. I love the size of Wake. I love that it's like kind of the best of both worlds, where it's a small liberal arts school, but also in the ACC, and you get these fun games. So all those things I loved. But it really truly was the people that made the difference for me and helped me decide. And the coolest thing about that is that I have found the community to be all the more even stronger going into Wake Forest and being a student there. Dawn and I have kept up all throughout my college experience. The girl that I stayed with when I was a senior in high school, I ended up living with last year together. And so it's a great community. And I was able to kind of sense that my senior year, and that's what sold me.
And I think you definitely, Catherine, it's so true. I think those relationships you develop either coming into Wake Forest or as you're a student, you take them with you when you leave. You all will experience this very soon, and Doug a little bit later, but you'll understand those relationships are so enduring because people just care about each other. It's a place where you don't just, know a name or a face, but you know a background, you know a story, and you develop those relationships that continue lifelong relationships. I graduated from Wake both undergrad and grad school many years ago and still have those relationships, and they're built, they're strengthened, and they're definitely enduring. So that's, I think, a hallmark of Wake Forest for sure. And Mara, how about you?
So I definitely had a very similar experience as Doug did when it came to picking or choosing to go to Wake Forest. I was definitely sold on another school. I didn't visit Wake until September of my senior year for the first time. And I actually had a big time lightning strike moment. The moment I stepped on campus, I fell in love with it. I mean, what's there not to love about campus? It's absolutely beautiful. And I just remember being on my tour, and I thought my tour guide was like the coolest guy ever because everyone was high-fiving him. And I realized it wasn't just that he was super cool. It was that we have just this incredible community here on campus, like Catherine mentioned. And I knew then and there that I wanted to go to Wake Forest. And I actually just ED'd about a week later. I filled out the entire application just like Doug did in about 2 days. And that's how I ended up at Wake.
Wonderful. Well, we're so glad you all did. You have made such an impact at the school. So we're excited that you're able to share that story and share a good bit about yourself. So tell us a little bit. So thinking about the atmosphere at Wake Forest, the culture of Wake Forest, we had a question of, is it competitive? Are students all about GPAs? Are they all about academics? Tell us a little bit about the culture, but also, is there that competitive nature? And Mara, since you're on my screen, I'm going to point to you.
So I would definitely say Wake isn't super competitive by any means. Like students are competitive in the sense that they're very driven and they want to get ahead, but they're not going to do it at the expense of another student. It's definitely a very supportive student body. And I know if I'm ever struggling in a class, the first person I'm going to go to is going to be another student or a professor. I've never been scared to reach out for another student for help. It's not competitive in that sense. You definitely develop a support system within your other classmates as well.
And would you say, Doug, are the classes large? The question that came in was basically, do you have access to your professors? TAs, are there TAs? But do professors have an interest in you? Do they get to know you? And are classes large? What's the average class size?
Yeah, I think in my experience, the average class size has been anywhere. My smallest class right now is 7 people, and my largest class in my time at Wake has been probably 28, 29-ish. I know there's some larger Gen Chem and classes. I think, Mara, you can maybe speak to that a little bit better than I can. But that's really the max of my class sizes that they've been. And in regards to the professor access and TA help, I know for accounting, for instance, since I'm one of the lead accounting TAs, we hold TA sessions every single night except for Friday and Saturday night. So every single night for 2 hours, TA is accessible. And then for professors, that's one of the main reasons why I would say you have to choose Wake, because really the professor-student relationship is just unprecedented. I play golf with one of my professors once a month, and Dr. Hatch has office hours. He's the president of the university. And so, if the president of the university has office hours every other week, and you can just go talk to him about literally whatever, I know that he plays basketball, and so we talk about basketball. And so, that's just what Wake Forest is. Or like my accounting professor this morning, Delta Airlines released their earnings, and so we hopped on the phone for 15 minutes this morning and talked about Delta Airline earnings, like nothing to do with class. And that is just what Wake Forest is all about. And that's the level of access you get for your professors, which is truly just amazing. And it's the best way to learn, because if you're trying to learn, you might as well just become best friends with the person who knows what you're trying to learn and talk to them and learn from them. And so that is the epitome of it.
So with TA, so you mentioned being a TA. Now, do you teach classes, or are the classes all taught by professors? How does that work?
Yeah, so the classes are all taught by professors. And then usually what happens for an exam review day, we will have a professor and 4 TAs in the room of a class of 30, and we'll help walk around and just answer questions and things like that. So, but every single class that I've ever had at Wake has been taught by a professor. I did have one communications class, which is a public speaking course, which I'm obviously still working on. And on Friday, we would have a TA session. So the Friday class would be break out into small groups of 7 or 8 and have TA sessions. But the Monday and Wednesday class would be with a professor.
And Katherine, thinking about what surprised you most once you got to Wake Forest, did you find something that really surprised you?
That's a great question. I think there's probably a lot that surprised me, but one thing that 2 things come to mind, maybe, if you don't mind me sharing both. One is honestly the things that I got involved in. There's some things that I was kind of coming into campus expecting to get involved in, planning to get involved in. But I shared earlier, like my journalism minor, that was not on my radar at all. I had no idea I was even interested in that. Traditions Council is another group that I really love, and that wasn't something that I even knew existed before I came into college. So that's just a really exciting thing for you guys to think about, is there's so many organizations on campus that you have no idea exist yet and could be a home for you on campus, and something that's really exciting. So that's something that I thought about. And then the other thing that kind of surprised me, and I say this in a positive way, that I think, if you got into Wake Forest, that means that you're likely at the top of your class, or at least up there, and you are really, really smart, and you have a lot going for you. And you probably did really well in high school. That's how you earned an acceptance to Wake Forest, which is an honor and so exciting. But I think something that surprised me going into campus was, oh, wait, I'm not at the very top of my class anymore. I'm at a school where everyone is also really smart and everyone is also really driven. And so that's certainly a humbling thing, but has also just been one of the coolest parts of college, that you get to be surrounded by people who are at a similar level as you and can have similar level conversations as you, who are going to really be people who are going to be positive influences on you in the classroom that are going to encourage you to be better. So that was, there's a moment there freshman year where you're a little bit surprised that your identity can't be found anymore in being at the very top of your class, because you may or may not be at the very top of your class. But then quickly, I think, turning that into a really positive thing of you are a part of a really impressive, really interesting class of people.
You have a chance to really challenge each other and grow in that challenge, which is, I think, a welcome sort of change, and that makes college a place where you do really grow from that challenge as well. Well, for Mara, what was a good resource that you found on campus?
That's a tough one, because I think there's just so many great resources that I found on campus. For me, it would probably have to be a tie between the OPCD and the chaplain's office. So I know Doug mentioned a lot about the OPCD before. When I got to college, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so the OPCD was very, very helpful when helping me navigate that process. They gave me different career interest surveys so I could sort of figure out what career I'm best suited for. I did mock interviews with them. They had me with resume building, all kinds of great resources and tools that have allowed me to have a job after graduation, which was the goal. And so in that sense, the OPCD has been really helpful. I also have a close relationship with the chaplain's office because I'm super involved in Wake Forest Catholic community. And our chaplain has become someone that I've just formed a special bond with. And she's sort of like my mom on campus. So if I'm ever stressed out, she's someone I know I can always turn to.
Wonderful. Yeah, like you say, there are just so many resources. It's hard to narrow it down to just one or two, because there's so many resources and opportunities on campus for sure. I know we're getting close to time, but we did have a question. So for our seniors, for Katherine and for Mara, you both mentioned jobs. So we had a question regarding what are you doing after graduation? So when that comes up, what are your plans? We'll start with you, Mara.
I can go first. Okay. So after graduation, hopefully sometime soon, everything's a little bit on hold right now. I'm actually going to be moving out to San Francisco, and I'm working for Ernst & Young in their consulting practice. And I'm also going to start studying for the MCAT as well, because I was on the pre-med track. So I'm going to see if the medical school route is still in my future as well.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And Katherine.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited because I get to be in Winston-Salem next year as something called a Wake Forest Fellow. And so just kind of a little bit of a overview of that program, because you might hear about it at Wake. There are 9 different offices around campus that have a fellow, which is a person who's 1 year out, who've just graduated. And it's a year-long program where you really get to learn a lot about whichever office that you're in. And anyway, it's just I'm really excited to do it. And I'll be the fellow in the OPCD. So that's a year-long fellowship in Winston. I'm excited.
Well, congratulations. That is exciting. And Doug, you have some plans too. So you're graduating, but you have some summer plans, it sounds like.
Yeah, so I'll be interning at Goldman Sachs in New York tentatively. So we're doing half remote and then half there. But I'll be working in the investment banking division there. So the OPCD has been awesome there, and Wake really sets you up well for whatever your plans are afterwards.
Wonderful. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of support and it sounds like you all have experienced that through various offices, through our faculty members, staff, fellow students. So it is a place that will support you and help you in that growth. Before we close out, we started with this idea of why Wake Forest. We had a question come from a student, your favorite Wake Forest memory. This might be hard to put into a small amount of time, and also probably hard to figure out. But can you pick a favorite memory? And Doug, we'll start with you.
Oh man, there have been so many. I don't even know what to pick. The one recently that comes to mind is we beat Duke in basketball this past, I think it was maybe 2 months ago. I don't even know. This semester's flown by, like every one of them. But we beat Duke in basketball, and then there was a giant party on the quad, and we stormed the floor of the basketball court. Then everybody went to the quad, and then it was just an amazing experience. And you roll the quad, you'll learn all about that, but it was just an amazing experience and something you'll never forget.
Wonderful. Go Deeks with that one. And Katherine, what about you?
This is a practically impossible question for me to answer. But one that I want to share with you guys is actually my 19th birthday. So my birthday is in late August, and my 19th birthday was the very beginning of my sophomore year. And the reason that memory is special to me is because when I was a freshman, my birthday was actually like one of the very first days that everyone was moved onto campus. And so nobody is gonna, at that point, it's just a couple days into college. I didn't really have friends. And so it was a fine birthday. A few people knew, but that was just not what a birthday is supposed to be. Because I was brand new on campus, didn't have friends yet, was, nervous and excited, but nervous. And then only a year later, going into my sophomore year, my 19th birthday, again, was one of the very first days of college. And it was so exciting because it was when everyone was back on campus, and these friends that I had made over the whole course of the year just were so special to me and still my very best friends. And they were the ones that really celebrated me those very first days of college. So not only was I so excited to see everyone because it was at the very beginning of sophomore year and we'd missed each other a lot over the summer, but also just in contrast to my 18th birthday the year before, how cool it was to see the way that year had shaped me, had shaped my friends, and had shaped my friendships. And I just felt very known and loved and celebrated that day. And, we didn't really do anything that special, but just to have that community around me, especially in contrast, was just one of my favorite memories.
That's a good one too. Yeah, this is a difficult question, but that's great. And Mara, we'll close out with you. We've given you a little time to think about it.
Yeah, during all this time, I've actually been trying to think about what my favorite force memory was, and I think Doug stole it from me. Definitely the beating Duke in basketball was an absolutely incredible experience. I'd never been in such an electric state of mind before. But I definitely think probably my favorite Wake Forest memory was this past year at Love Feast. I actually had the opportunity during the 8 p.m. celebration to light the candles. And it's just it's like one of the most beautiful celebrations ever. And it's something that I volunteer at. I've been volunteering at every year that I've been at Wake. And to have such like that influential part of lighting the candles, which you'll learn more about how the importance behind that later on when you guys are all Wake Forest students. It just reminded me that at Wake, you're part of just something so much bigger than yourself. And getting to see Wake Chapel completely lit up is absolutely beautiful. And it really just shows how incredible the Wake Forest student and faculty body is and community.
Thank you. Well, I've asked lots of questions. I think I put us over time, so I'm going to pass the conversation back to Thomas, who will close us out. But thank you. I think you'll see that we always love to talk with students, whether they're prospective students, admitted students, current students. Those relationships, as we've said, are really enduring. And we just wish you all the best of luck, and we'll continue our relationships and continue our conversation. But passing it back to you, Thomas.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of the Office of Admissions, many thanks to our panelists, to Doug and to Katherine and to Mara, again, for your expertise and for sharing your stories. But also thank you to you as an attendee for spending a little bit of time with us here in this afternoon to learn a little bit more about Wake Forest. It was mentioned a little bit earlier that we in the Office of Admissions are there to support you. And if you have questions, if there are things that we can do to assist you over these next few weeks, don't hesitate at all to reach out to us. We're happy to connect you with students just like these that you've heard from today. Happy to connect you with our faculty, our staff, our alums as well. Don't forget about our social media. There's certainly a lot of great perspectives that are coming out there, as well as just on our website, some really good information that I think will be really helpful to you. We wish you good health. We wish you good spirits over the next few weeks. And of course, all the best to you in your decision-making process. Have a great evening. And as always, go Deeks.
Go Deeks.